There we go. All right. I got hung up a minute ago and didn't want to come all the way on. So welcome to Yoga for Justice. Come down to the seat. Starting to breathe fully in and out through the nose. And I'm going to scoop my mat back just a hair. I think that's going to have to be close enough because if I open up the lid, we get that halo from the overhead light and it's not going to be light enough outside. Just come into a seat, breathing fully in and out through the nose, lifting up through the crown of the head. And just moving your attention to your own just inner experience. If you want to shrug your shoulders a time or two, feel free to do that. If you want to dip your chin or make some circles, opening up the neck, feel free. And to begin topically this evening, while you just kind of get settled and get your breath established, I've got a quote from W.E.B. Du Bois, who was a very important African-American scholar in the United States, who this particular quote is from 1931, but he was writing all through the early 1900s, that sort of immediate post-Reconstruction period that you may be familiar with because you might have read something about the period of time when the many statues of Confederate generals and so forth started to go up around the southeastern U.S. And the lost cause mythology surrounding the Civil War. So this is W.E.B. Du Bois, who sort of was alive in America when all of that was happening and writing and working on scholarship when all of that was happening, commenting on it in 1931. The most terrible thing about war, I am convinced, is its monuments. These awful things we are compelled to build in order to remember the victims. In the South particularly, human ingenuity has been put to it to explain on its war monuments the Confederacy. Of course, the plain truth of the matter would be an inscription something like this: sacred to the memory of those who fought to perpetuate human slavery. But that reads with increasing difficulty as time goes on. It does, however, seem to be overdoing the matter to read on a North Carolina Confederate monument, died fighting for liberty. And so pointing out that in order to sort of avoid saying something unseemly, like the Civil War was about slavery, this lie has been invented and being kind of snide about it. So in the South, we drag around the weights of these concrete statues and of the human beings who have chosen that convenient lie that feels a little bit better over being serious about the things that have happened in this country. So we're gonna come over to hands and knees for some cat-cows. Breathing here. And you're gonna breathe with your movement. I'm gonna talk and move, but exhaling, pulling the belly up, rounding, tucking the tailbone, letting the head drop. Inhale, dropping the belly, lifting hips and head, opening the heart. Exhaling, rounding up. Inhaling, opening out. So here in good old Oxford, Mississippi, we have got there have been protests involving the Confederate monuments, primarily the one that's on the university's campus, and to a different extent, the one that is on the courthouse square, because we got two a mile away from each other. And there's been just a ton of argument, consternation, tired ass talking points being trotted out by the official people who are in charge of many things. But lo and behold, this week, the statue that was on the university property has been moved It sits at the cemetery. And after another big exhale, you can come to seated once again. We've had everybody happen to be attentive and giving time and energy, bringing the arms up will open the sides, to things like the fact that some donor who can't be bothered to support the school's core missions of research and education was going to pay over $1 million to add some headstones and some nice lighted sidewalks and all of these like extra frills and decoration. Cat just unplugged my laptop. Extra frills and decorations for literally a Confederate cemetery, when it could just sit there and sit there. And so it's taken actually a lot of effort on the part of the scholars here at the University of Mississippi in a variety of departments to really kind of stand up for the truth, to insist on engaging with facts, to get the university statue moved. Next time you have finished both sides, bring your hands back down. Meanwhile, the County Board of Supervisors has refused to move the statue on the courthouse square, having only allowed for 30 minutes of public comment at a public meeting to hear anything on the matter, and mostly just acting like they're highly inconvenienced by everybody bothering them about this. So when I say tired ass talking points, there have been some really ignorant things that came out of that governing body of Lafayette County. So I have a theory, and we're going to do fire log pose while I tell you about it. So fire log pose, I'm gonna take my right leg and lay it down. My shin should be, or like my shin and knee should be approximately in a line with my two seat bones, kind of parallel. And then I'm gonna stack my left ankle on top of my right knee on top of my left ankle. Scoot back some. Just not a good way to do this and avoid that overhead light. So what I want is my shins to be in as straight of a line with each other as they can be. I can sit my hands into the floor. There might be a big gap between this top knee and the foot below it. That's fine. Breathing here, sitting up tall. So there's been consternation, speculation that somewhere along the way in the mysterious good old boy network of Mississippi, that some type of agreement in various back rooms, because really nobody in Mississippi gets to be in the room where it happens. If you want, you can push your hands into your feet if you want to just fuel that fire. And so recently, after, again, tons of attention on this ridiculous proposed plan for redecorating the Confederate cemetery, the chancellor of the university has released a statement repeating some information that came to light, I think, a month ago, in terms of what was actually in the cemetery, what could be verified, what we could know, what was the appropriate thing to do, what was the appropriate use of that space. Basically they are going to leave, switching legs now, left foot's on the bottom, stacking right ankle on top of left knee on top of left ankle, opening up this right hip, trying to build a fire in the space of your body, breathing. So we're not going to have the redecorated cemetery for reasons, but it appears to me that sort of the period of time when it might have been more critical, or at least as critical, to push about the issue with the Board of Supervisors in the county was simultaneous to this decoration plan. And so I think somewhere, someone had to do with making a decision of like, no, I'll be the fall guy. We'll, look over here with this idiotic decorating the cemetery plan that we don't ever expect will actually happen, but it'll take the heat off, some of these other good old boys to defend their statue better. So it's pretty infuriating. These types of demonstrations have been going on a long time. And so with that thought and the, my own knowledge of the extent to which I've either like seen these types of protests or participated in them to deal with flags and statues and we've been contending with these symbols for a long time. So again, knowing that there's quite a history of it and knowing that it takes a lot of effort to ever get these things done at all, we're going to be building stamina through a pretty vigorous yoga practice. So we're going to uncross this other leg from fire log. You should feel really nice about escaping here. So plant the hands, tuck the toes, find your downward facing dog. And let your shoulders slide down the back, chest melt toward the legs. Knees and heels relax, belly lifts. We'll inhale, right heel high to the sky. Exhale, swing it through between the hands, plant it down. Let the left knee come down and lift up for a low crescent lunge. Square in the hips, tuck in the tailbone, sinking into this right leg, breathing. You'll be offered a lot in your shoulders this evening. Opt for as much or as little of it as you want. Exhaling, hands down. Plant the left hand and inhale, right arm high. Exhale, right hand down. Tuck in the toes, taking it back to plank. Exhale the knees, option to tuck the elbows and give it a little push-up before lowering all the way down into cobra for your inhale, pointing the tailbone back. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, lift the left heel high to the sky. Exhale, swing it through between the hands. Bring the knee down. Come up, square up the hips, left hip hugs back. Arms reach, sinking into that left hip as much as you care to. Heart forward, strong in the ground and tall. We'll exhale, hands down. Plant that right hand, inhale the left arm up high, stacking your shoulders. Exhale, left hand down, tuck in the right toes, taking it back for plank. Exhale, knees, give a little push-up or not. Chin and chest into your inhale for cobra. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Breathing here, we'll rest in this downward dog for a minute. If it doesn't feel restful, come to child's pose. You have to build this stamina because especially if, like me, you grew up here and you kind of been steeped in the environment of this cultural baggage, it can feel pretty heavy sometimes. When you're around people who have bought the lie, they'll say died for liberty with no sense of irony about what they're saying. And then hearing it, seeing how honest that denial is, be confusing, frustrating, exhausting. We'll inhale, right heel high to the sky. Exhale, swing it through between the hands, plant the knee, lift up, low crescent. Breathing here. Exhale the hands down, tuck the left toes, take it to plank. You can keep the knees lifted or lower them down for 2 push-ups. Into your cobra, inhaling and exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, left heel high to the sky. Exhale, swing it through between the hands, plant the right knee. Coming up, Anjaneyasana, the low crescent. Repeating once again this posture that is a person reaching for the sky who is given a seed. Exhaling the hands down. I can't remember if we twisted on the other side this second time or not, but we'll do it here. Why not? Left hand comes down, tuck the right toes, step it back for plank. Remembering the yoga push-up hugs the elbows into the ribs. Option for 2 knee push-ups or regular push-ups. Exhaling into cobra. Inhaling cobra or upward dog. Exhale. Downward facing dog. Breathing here. Inhale, float it forward to your plank. We're going to take some plank to forearm plank circles. So lower your right hand, then your left forearm plank. Plant your right hand, come up into your left. Lower right hand, lower left, lifting the belly. Right hand up. Right forearm, left forearm. Right hand, left hand. Hold. Other way. Left forearm, right forearm, left hand, right hand, left forearm, right forearm, left hand, right hand, left forearm, right forearm, left hand, right hand. Find that plank. Exhale, press to downward dog. Lift through the belly, let the shoulders slide away from the ears here. And then bring the knees down, sink back to your child's pose. Take a rest. Let the arms come along the sides. And if that's a little too hot because we're already moving, come on up to your seat or to your knees. Maybe stretching out the shoulders by crossing one arm in front of the other. You can hold your wrist or cross the elbow. So taking a little break, getting a swig of water if you want. The defenders of the statues, one of the main arguments that they go to is like heritage and tradition. Those words come up all the time as if the lost cause mythology is the only heritage or tradition out there about these, about any of these symbols. And so they've used it for the statues, they've used it for the Confederate flag, for all manner of things. And basically, in the post-Reconstruction world, for about as long as those symbols have been around, there have been groups of people arguing that they shouldn't be. So just as we see Dubois telling us in 1931, the same thing that we're trying to tell the Lafayette County Board of Supervisors today, and not quite getting through, you know, how much repetition it takes to get something through. There is a tradition of history and protest. And so I want to show you a friend of mine who used to work in university publishing gave me this photo in a frame, which shows, I'm picking up. Oh, it's reflecting on, there we go. So these are Black students at Ole Miss outside of, I believe it's Bar Hall, burning the Confederate battle flag or the flag of the Army of Northern Virginia. And this is, I believe, 1978, sometime in the late 70s. And so there's also this kind of mythology at the university when you attend as a student, as an undergraduate, that, you know, we had that whole James Meredith thing, and like we solved racism, and even though we have these little controversies over these little symbols, it's not that big of a deal, when in fact there have been people working really hard and trying to agitate and being very direct about these things the entire time. So, and again, ongoing into today, ongoing into the time we voted on the flag of the state of Mississippi when I was, I think, freshman in college. It was one of the first things I ever voted on. And so I voted to change the flag in 2001 in a statewide referendum. And it's taken 20 years to, not quite 20, to get to the point where we actually get the flag changed. So These things are it's one little thing at a time. It's super frustrating. It's one statue in some kind of weird ass good old boy backroom deal, shady bullshit. And the only thing that we can do is kind of try to endure. And there have been people who have carried the weight of this cultural baggage that's been a lot more heavy than anything I've ever had to deal with. So with that, we are going to come to our downward dog. Everything's an option. Just because I'm pissed off and have to do big yoga doesn't mean that you have to. That's not that big though. Breathing. We'll inhale the right heel up high. Exhale, swing it through between the hands, plant it down and come up warrior two. Right knee bends. Feet have a little T-shape alignment. Sinking into that right knee. Watching for that right big toe. Gazing out over that right fingertip. At what will come if we just keep working the same movements over and over with the goal of that real truth. Inhaling, straightening that right knee. We're sliding a triangle, sliding over sideways, reaching through the hands, lightly dropping that right hand and letting the left arm come up high, breathing. Inhale, left arm up. Exhale, windmill the hands down, framing that right foot, step back to plank and roll into your right side for a side plank. Either stacking the feet or you can drop. Exhale, plank, 3 push-ups if you want them. Rolling into your heart opener. Exhaling, downward facing dog. It's okay to feel tired. Strong hands planted all the way through the fingertips. Heels and knees relax, belly lifts. We'll inhale the left heel high to the sky. Exhale, swing it through between the hands. Coming up, warrior two, gazing over those left fingertips. Gazing at those left fingertips, maybe at the history, at the tradition of protest that has surrounded these racist and anti-freedom symbols, but not been allowed to step into the light. But even if it's in the dark, it's a candle, it's a torch that we can carry, straightening out that left knee, sliding over sideways, reaching through the hand, lightly dropping the hand, right arm reaches high, breathing. Inhale, lift out through that right hand. Exhale, windmill the hands down, framing the left foot, stepping back for plank, roll to your left side, reaching the right arm high, side plank. Exhale, plank, 3 push-ups. If you want to, maybe you want the knees down for some, but not others. Into your inhale, cobra or up dog, whichever one at whichever time. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Thinking about how some of this repetition, like we do in a yoga practice, is building not just the physical stamina, but the spiritual stamina to reach our goals. I'm going to turn myself around so that I'll be on the right side to face y'all. It's not just one marathon race on one day. This is something, stamina for an everyday, a constant. We'll inhale the right heel up high. Exhale, swing it through between the hands. Come up, warrior two. Tucking the tailbone, reaching through the hands. Gazing out over that right hand. On our exhale, windmill the hands down to the inside of the right foot, come into lizard. And so you can stay on the flat part of this right foot, or you can pick up your toes and kind of ease it over to the side, ease the knee over, just keep the foot flexed. This left knee can be lifted or on the ground. Then I'm going to choose kind of to rock back and forth a little bit here and open this hip, because there's some cool stuff that you can do if you can start to do things like get your right shoulder underneath your knee. And you want to really know that you're safe and plugged in those left toes. Strong arms. Don't lock your elbows if you're here. And so sometime, I'm going to have to scoot this left foot in some. But get that right shoulder. You want up on the shoulder and the upper arm. Maybe picking up that left foot. Hugging it close. And that's all I can do with it. There's some people that can do this like flying lizard where they pick that left foot up and then, or pick the right foot up and then the left. And I'm not there, but I don't have to be there today to ever do it. Releasing that right foot, stepping back to plank, however many push-ups. I'm staying at 3. And I'm going to roll into the right side for side plank once again. Staying here or taking that left foot up and crunching it towards your ribs 3 times. Roll back to plank. Taking it through your vinyasa. Exhaling. Downward facing dog. Inhale the left heel up high. Exhale, swing it through between the hands. Coming up. Warrior 2. Checking in on the feet. Tucking the tailbone. Gazing out over the left fingers. And exhale, windmill the hands down to the inside of that left foot. Finding the lizard lunge that you want to be working in. This right knee can lift or it can come to the floor. Left foot flat, or you pick up those toes and ease the knee over. And again, I'm going to be working on trying to find just openness in my back a little bit. My hips, trying to be safe about my alignment and using the awareness that I have. And I'm going to start trying to work my left shoulder underneath my left knee. Maybe scooting this right foot in. Getting my hands lined up really strong. Picking up that left foot. Quiet, get that right foot off the floor. But that's okay. We're going to let it go. Stepping out. Push-ups. Rolling into that left side for a side plank. Flexing that right foot, crunching the knee towards your ribs for 3. Roll into plank. Roll through your vinyasa. And exhale. Downward facing dog. Good breath in your downward dog. And lower the knees. Taking it to child's pose. Or just up to your knees. Woo, golly. Building stamina. Can't do it in the South without some sweat. Unless you're just really abusing the environment with your air conditioner. Whew. So one of the things about building stamina is, especially with this idea of like this sort of spiritual stamina that I'm thinking about. Because I was talking with a friend recently who's also been around Oxford for quite a number of years and working on these very same issues and trying to figure out like how can we put something together that's going to make a change, affect a change. Of course, knowing that it's very frustrating to work hard to try to achieve a change and a good result. and then not see it, and then not see it again, and not see it again. Try again and not see again. And we all like the idea of being sort of that, just like have stoicism about that, right? That our ego is not wrapped up in whether or not we got the thing done that we were trying to do. And I think with regard to this particular issue with the Board of Supervisors, is for one, and this is true in a lot of these like small southern towns, is that they really don't feel like they serve the public. They feel like they serve the little handful of people who vote for them in the local elections. And so we tend to have here, the last round of local elections, we had some really, actually local and statewide, some close results that sort of were disappointing if you vote like me, but that's nothing new. And if you're really wanting to see that outcome here in the South, whether it is sort of voting or whether it is doing this like agitating, demonstrating, and protesting tradition, you come home empty-handed a lot, and it sucks, and it's demoralizing, and it will suck the energy out of things. And I think one thing that I would love, especially for like younger people, to kind of get a hold of in their mind. And I think that there might be an extent to which some of them now are, because they're much more active now than I've ever seen here, like widespread student activism. And so I just hope that they are sort of like ready and capable to work on these kinds of missions repeatedly and over again, because that is what it takes to move that needle. And what I would really love to see is, might lose something like the Courthouse Square statue, and have really mixed feelings about the victory that we did get, because there's always a catch with these fucking people. So it can be real easy, I think, to just decide that none of it matters and like not show up and vote. And that's basically what many previous generations of residents of this town have done, is teach our supervisors that they don't have to do anything but kind of sit around and wait for the bitching to stop, and then they can just get reelected like the last time, because there's not a new wave of people in their district, working to vote them out. But we have all this weird party crap in Mississippi, where Democrats on the ticket are not necessarily in any sense progressive. They're actually the kind of Dixiecrat type, with some kind of just historically Democratic district with enough voters with enough practice, that repetition, to create that same result over and over again. And so figuring out exactly how to crack that, in particular through voter participation, is a big challenge. I think that's the next thing that we've got to do, is actually start to deliver some accountability to our elected officials, especially our local elected officials, who do control so many things that can really, really matter. So for example, our Board of Supervisors can also decide to make transparent and readily available to the public every record of complaint or discipline of every officer in Lafayette County Sheriff's Department. They can today create mandate a training in de-escalation. They can today start to share some money with some social workers to intervene in situations that might not be the best thing for a sheriff's deputy to work with. So there's a number of policy measures that we should now be, it's like, okay, so you're going to keep the statute for now, no matter what we say. I think we need to make sure that we follow through with, here are some other policy objectives that are actually the meat and bones of this problem that we want you to work on. And if you won't take us seriously, if you won't come through, we've got to start to be able to deliver that accountability at the ballot box. So I know it's discouraging. I know it's hard. That's why we're building some stamina here. We got one more big round. You ready? We're going to move over to a forearm plank. Not forearm plank. So it's call it dolphin pose. You can either have your palms up or you can interlace your hands, but you want your elbows directly underneath your shoulders. You're going to press your toes into the floor and lift up so that your ears hang between your upper arms, just like in a downward dog. We're going to do 10 dolphin push-ups, which means we're going to inhale, float forward, extend your chin, exhale, lift up through your belly, lift back. 9 more of those, guys. And that's 10 for me. When you hit 10, release your knees down, sink it back to a child's pose. Let the arms come along the sides. And we'll lift up, maybe give it a little stretch. Cross those shoulders again. Roll them up around a little bit. And then from here, we come back, find a forearm plank, palms down, shoulders directly above your elbows, so a nice straight vertical line. And take the legs back and roll into this right hand. And if you want to, you can turn, actually, let's do it this way. Let's turn that right arm parallel to that short edge of your mat and roll over to your right side on your foot or your knee. We're going to take this left arm and dip it 5 times underneath the ribs. Other side, taking that left forearm down parallel to the mat, roll it over. Right arm extends, reach it underneath 5 times. Yay. Roll it back to your forearm plank, find the whole thing one more time, and then drop your knees. Exhale it back, child's pose. Just for a minute. And we're going to come onto the back, down on the floor. Rolling it down, maybe crossing those shoulders over and using gravity to kind of help you out here. Squeezing the shoulders back. We're just going to take a bridge pose here. Arms along the sides, palms down. And then pressing arms, hands, and feet into the floor. Lift the hips up. Aiming the tailbone out long. Breathing here. And roll on down. All the way to the floor, knock the knees together and let the feet come wide. And then give them a little drop one side to the other. And from here, you can either take another bridge pose. If you've got it in these shoulders, and you got some oomph to you, get that stamina ready, bring the hands next to your ears, basically next to your shoulders, your feet in, and you can press up to a full wheel. Ten breaths. Exhaling down. in, maybe a little rock on the back there. Coming on down. Let's bring the soles of the feet together. Let the knees hang open. You can take hands to the tops of the legs or opposite elbows up over the head. Taking the hands to the outsides of the legs, closing the knees up like a book. Find some anchor arms, either little cactus or goalpost post hands or palms down from your shoulders. Bring the left leg down, lift up that right knee, and exhale onto your left hip. Maybe you look out over that right shoulder, breathing. Inhaling back out, taking that right leg down, bringing that left shin up and rolling to the right hip, rounding that left shoulder and looking out. Inhaling back out. Maybe sliding up your own sweat trail to get back in the right place on your mat. To come down, all the way down, letting the legs fall out, letting the arms fall along the sides, breathing fully in and out through the nose. Releasing here. From within yourself and everywhere beyond, releasing that clinging to lies, releasing the denial of the truth about our history here. Releasing your frustration, relaxing all the muscles in your face, and parting your teeth. Releasing your despair, and letting it move through the body and turn into the softness that we need to connect to other people. Releasing your need to see that result in front of your face. Releasing your need for a pat on the back. And giving yourself credit for your own steps. And giving yourself credit for your own sight. Gently bringing your attention back to your body, to your mat. Gently bringing awareness back into the edges of the body, tips of the toes and fingers. You can wiggle the fingers or wiggle the toes. You can open and close hands or roll the ankles and wrists around, just anything that you like. Making your way towards the center of the body. And you can stretch up overhead, or you can roll over to either side. Just anything that you want to make your way up to your comfortable seat once more. And breathing here, bringing your hands together at your heart. Breathing gratitude to yourself for whatever tradition of voting or tradition of writing to your representatives or tradition of showing up to protest or making signs you've ever been a part of. Even if you've just been, saying you go girl to your friend who's going to protest, or even if you've forgotten elections in the past to show up to. Breathing gratitude for the traditions of voting and protest and engagement with these seats of power have come before you. Let yourself be inspired by the fact that you are coming from a very strong tradition just by doing those things. Maybe committing yourself not to be too frustrated, not frustrated to the point of inaction by these power structures genuinely built around, or at least rewarding people who align themselves around denial and lies and exclusion. We can make it better. We've got to start by making them accountable. And that really just means showing up, showing up, showing up, repeat, 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 show up, show up, show up, repeat, repeat, repeat. Say it as many times to yourself as you need to. And we'll do it as many times as it takes. With gratitude, namaste. Thank y'all for hanging in.